Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, whatever part of the world you are tuned in from. This is Funny Like a Clown podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Wirth. May 14th, 2022. As always, today's episode is brought to you by G Vegas Buffalo Sauce. Put the whammy jam in your mouth. Go to www.gvegas.webs.com. Get it shipped right to your door. Go green, go fresh. This is episode 150. I promised you something special, and I have delivered. We got a guest today, one of the top working comics in the country. He's currently out in Las Vegas. That's where he's tuning in from, performing out there. He was part of the LA Outlaws of Comedy, a finalist on Last Comic Standing, known for acting roles on TV in The King of Queens, Entourage, and ER, and the movies Go, and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Jimmy Shubert, welcome to the show.
Hey, man, how are you, brother?
Doing good, brother. Thanks for being on. Let's get right to it. We got to start somewhere. Let's start at the beginning. How did you get started in comedy? I know at the age of 15, you were already a professional magician. I was watching reruns of Gilligan's Island at 15. What gave you the itch to be in the comedy business?
It's interesting. I started doing magic, like I did it for a time that early in my life. And then when I hit 18, I just kind of, it was a natural progression. I just went to the comedy clubs and started doing jokes, retired to one, let the rabbit go, and then started, telling jokes. And 2 years later, I drove to Los Angeles. I started working at the Comedy Store as a doorman and became a non-paid regular out there, and ran into the likes of Sam Kinison and everybody else, and wound up touring with him for a couple of years. And so, it was just like, I couldn't go to clubs when I was younger, so magic was a great way to get some performance chops without being in nightclubs. And I used to do a lot of shows, and I used to do shows for the Children's Hospital in Philadelphia. And I just loved to perform, man. I was always performing. So funny, my brother's wife tells this funny story. When I was little, I used to go door to door and just perform magic for people just because I had to get better at magic. And she goes, "Oh, it's 3:00. Jimmy Schubert's here for the afternoon magic show."
That's your audience right there.
So, I wanted to do it for a living. And obviously, all these years later, it's panned out. It's been a great life. It's been a great way to make a living, and it's brought me all over the world. So.
All right, so you're part of the LA Outlaws of Comedy.
No, it's the Outlaws of Comedy, not the LA Outlaws of Comedy. It's the Outlaws of Comedy.
The Outlaws
it's
of
associated
Comedy.
with Sam Kinison. And the Outlaws of Comedy was from Houston, not from LA.
Right, the Texas Outlaw Comics, that was Bill Hicks' group, right? And then you were part of
it was Sam Kinison's thing. The Outlaws of Comedy was Sam's guys. They were the guys that opened for Sam on the road. It was Comics on the Lam, was Bill Hicks, Riley Barber, Carl LeBeau, and Sam Kinison. It was Comics on the Lam. The Outlaws of Comedy became something that was associated just with Kinison. And so, he brought a bunch of guys on the road and called us the Outlaws of Comedy. And it was Mitch Walters and Carl LeBeau and Alan Stevens. And we toured like multiple cities, like 70 cities, 60 cities, just doing doing that show.
What was it like touring with, that kind of an audience? Sam was one of the biggest comics at the time. What was it like going from performing at local clubs to now you're doing stadiums and venues like that?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was really awesome. It was great. That's where I developed. Those guys were lucky enough to kind of take me under the wing. I was a younger comic, and they kind of, was able to go and develop in front of like 6,300 people. I did the Spectrum in Philadelphia in front of my family, and it was awesome. I can't say enough good things about it. I enjoyed watching Kinison's process. I enjoyed, touring with some of the other guys. They were all really great comics, and they all kind of looked out for me. I was like the mascot. And because I was younger than them, they always, it's a little, shit always rolls downhill. But it was fun. It was a great time. It was a terrific adventure.
All right, so you worked hard on your own, and now some of the rumor, because local comics have told me, you were one of the finalists in 2014 on Last Comic Standing, and they say like a local comic like me, if I went and stood in line for like 3 hours, that's the only reason I'm there is to get footage of us standing in line. That you actually need an agent to get on that show, and once you're on, it's legit. But how did you get on that show? What led you to that?
It's funny because, I had an opportunity to do it. I had known a couple comics that had done it, like Rich Voss and Amy Schumer and some of these other folks that do it. And I said, well, I got to lose. I got nothing to lose. Let me just go do it. And sure enough, they accepted me, and I got in, and I was became one of the finalists. And so it was a great, unique experience because you got to write for TV. It's I mean, you really got to write 2 minutes and 40 seconds of stand up comedy and make it hit and make it pop. And you have to send that stuff to them 2 weeks before you tape it because it's got to go through the legal people have to look at all the stuff you're going to say. So it really isn't like what it appears to be, like a bunch of comics. I mean, you have to have these sets worked out before you submit them. And then, you can do a version of that depending on what they allow you to do or not allow you to do.
Okay, so you didn't have to stand in line for 2-3 hours to be seen. You sent in a video to be seen. Was how it worked for you?
No, I auditioned live.
Okay.
And while I was auditioning, the fire alarm went off, and so we had to evacuate the building. And I went back in, and they accepted me, which was great. And then the first time I went up, I went up 26 of 26 into a 6-hour taping, and I crushed. And so they passed me, and I got into the semifinals and then the finals and all that stuff. And I just like working on the stand up. I mean, all that other stuff with that show is kind of ridiculous. I mean, I'm not going to go, shopping at the Bed Bath & Beyond and write an act like Carrot Top or, these stupid things they had you do.
That's right.
It's like, the life of a comedian is interesting enough. You don't have to make shit up. Like, I mean,
that's the price you pay, though. If you want to do it, you have to play by their rules, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's just I always thought that stuff was ridiculously stupid because you could have you go in and pitch a show for network executives, and then the winner of that would fly to Vegas and entertain, 1,000 liquor sales reps for Kettle One vodka. So you could put all those ad placements in the show. I would have done the show differently myself, but yeah, it was good to be a part of it. It was fun, but I just it's not it's not all it's it's reality television. It's not based in reality.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I had Tom Cotter on, and he was on America's Got Talent. Came that close to winning, and I mean, you were that close to winning Last Comic Standing. What was it like being? I mean, that close and then not finishing it off like that? Was that?
Well, you don't do those shows to win them. You do them for the exposure.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, because if you win them, they own you. They own you for the next 5 years. So every month, like percentage of the money you make goes to America's Got Talent or whatever. I mean, they like if I made it into the top 5, I would have had to go on like this 60 city tour with the other 5 contestants, and those guys hated it. They were trapped in a bus. They didn't get hotel rooms. They had to shower at the venues. It was gross, but that's why you don't want to win those shows. You just want to use it for the exposure,
and you get to do it yourself, so it worked out for you in the end, right?
Yeah, I grabbed a girl named Zainab Johnson, who's this African American Muslim female comedian, and I just grabbed her. She was a semifinalist, and I thought she had monster potential, and she was great. We just went on the road. I just grabbed her, and we went on the road and did our own little version of it. And we were selling out shows because people remembered them, remember her from the show, remember me from the show, and so we were selling out venues. It was great. And then my agent eventually signed her, and now she's touring on her own. So it's great. I was, the thing is, there's winning the show, and then there's winning the show. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can win the show, but I got to be honest, I haven't heard anything from Rodman in the last 2 years. I haven't even heard his name, so I don't know what he's doing. He was promised a development deal and all this other stuff. They have a sitcom for NBC. So I mean, this is all the things you got if you won, but I haven't heard hiding her hair. So
yeah, then Gabriel Iglesias got thrown off the show, and he became more popular for getting thrown off than if he'd won the damn thing. So it all worked out in the end, I guess.
Yeah, but look at Amy Schumer. Amy Schumer finished 8th or 7th or 6th or something like that. I mean, like I said, there's winning the show, and then there's winning the show.
You get your exposure. People like you, they're doing. All right, so that led to TV, the King of Queens. I mean, were you friends with Kevin James from the comedy world, or how did that come about? You got on TV like that?
Well, no, I knew Kevin. I was probably better friends with his brother Gary, and we toured. One of the guys that wrote for the show, Rock Rubin, was one of the writers on the show, and so he created this thing for me to do on the show, and then and then they would bring me back whenever they needed talking UPS drivers and somebody deliver some lines. And it was great, man. It was a great experience. I loved being part of that show. Leah Remini is great. Kevin James is great. It was just, it's caught a bigger audience in syndication than it did when it was actually on TV. But, really fun to be a little part of it, and other stuff. I got to do Entourage, did 4 episodes of Entourage,
Entourage,
and
yeah.
also a couple episodes of ER,
Right.
and yeah, and I just I'm lucky because I got another opportunity to go out there and do that stuff, which is what I've always wanted to do. I wanted to do some acting things, and you know, and right before the pandemic, I auditioned, I showcased for the Magic Castle. I became a magician member out there of the Magic Castle, and so yeah, it's been a fun little career. Plus, I've done all those Armed Forces Entertainment tours and Department of Defense tours over in Afghanistan and all through Europe, entertaining the troops in Korea.
Well, it's good to give back. Yeah. And do you find it more nerve-wracking doing acting or live performances? 'Cause I know acting is a lot of sitting around in between takes where a live
Yeah. No,
performance,
it's definitely stand up. Stand up gets you more nerves
no
because
second
it's
chances in stand-up, right?
yeah, you're live, and you can do another take if you need to in acting. So
All right. So TV led to movies. You're in the movie Go and Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. What was that like for you, rubbing elbows with those big stars?
it was great. I mean, these environments, they're uber professional environments. You want to show up prepared. You want to know what you're doing. I mean, it's nice to work and rub elbows, but at the same time, I'm there to do a job. And so it was nice. Brad was great. It was nice to meet Angelina. The guy that directed me in the movie Go, he directed Swingers. Doug Lyman was the director on that. So he walked up and introduced us, and it was very cool. And yeah, it was it's fun, man. I mean, it's the stuff it's all the stuff you think about and dream about when you're trying to get your career going,
Yeah,
and then you
yeah.
get opportunities to do this stuff.
You're doing it, yeah. All right, so I want to phrase this question correctly. You got 4 comedy albums out, which I mean, nowadays stuff put out a comedy album with all the free downloading stuff. Do you do it not so much to make money, more as an advertisement piece, or?
Well, no, I create. It's called creating content, and I do it more so they can play me on Sirius XM satellite radio because you get paid for those plays now. But plus, I do sell a lot of stuff on iTunes, and I have a distributor that distributes that stuff. But it gets played on the radio, and people buy them at shows, and people buy them after shows, and people go to my website or they go to iTunes and they just download it, and it creates a residual stream of income, which helps me out. You get residuals for acting. You also get paid for it. So there's a lot of ways to get paid for. It's not. People go, "Oh, it's just an album." Well, yeah, it's an album, but it's content. I basically steal that audio and put it on.
Well,
Um,
it's comedy specials now, not so much comedy albums, because all the free downloading, you can't really make a lot of money because one person
well,
downloads it, then it's free.
everybody's releasing their comedy albums on YouTube anyway. So what's the
Yeah,
big deal?
what's the difference? Yeah.
If you release it on Amazon, they bring you in on ad share revenue. I don't even know what that means. There's no way to keep track of it. So, but I know people that have put those albums out. They just don't get paid for them.
Right.
At least you get paid if you're on YouTube and you get enough hits.
So you just hit #1 on iTunes, Zero Tolerance hit. You have Alive and Kickin', Pandemonium, and Animal Instincts. Comedy reviewer Richard Lavoie said you're aggressive but not overly blue. So now I know the Outlaws, you started out as a group of comics who want to speak your mind. You weren't going to sell out to the industry. You're going to say what you had to say. Whatever happened, happened. Because, in comedy, if you work clean, you always work. If you work blue, then it's not always a big payday sometimes. But in the 80s, you get respected for that. It seems nowadays you can hardly tell any joke anymore and someone's getting offended by it. So comedy's a tough place to be. I'll say Chris Rock has got the shit smacked out of him on national TV is probably the most reverence thing. So, I mean, what do you think of
the
comedy?
problem is that, what the problem is, Dennis? People are fucking assholes today. That's what the fucking problem is.
That's the problem. Right? How do you deal with that in comedy? What do you do as a comedian?
Well, I use my brain and I outright the fucking idiots who get pissed off at everything. Right. I use my brain. Like if you get mad at me doing a fucking Cascade Complete joke, then fucking sorry for you. But I don't play that game. I've been doing this 30 fucking years. And I'm talking to somebody else. These people take the fun out of everything. They take the fun out of everything. And I actually feel sorry for those people because they have no joy in their lives. And they're going to wind up fucking, dying of some kind of stressed out related fucking disease because they're a bunch of cunts and they should fucking die. Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? I don't work like that. I'm an artist. So I do my fucking jokes to make people laugh. And if you can't fucking handle it, then you shouldn't be in a comedy club in the fucking first place. And I'm done catering to these fucking douchebags. And and I just use my brain. I just write stuff that if you can get offended by it, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, it's on them, not you, right?
Well, the other 900, the other 99 people in the audience are having a great time.
Right.
So I don't know
It's
what's
the
up
one
your
handful
ass.
ruins it for everyone.
Well, but that's what people do. They ruin everything.
Yeah.
Human beings ruin everything. We're going to ruin ourselves. We'll cancel ourselves out eventually because there's no more fun to be had in life. These people can't stand other people having fun.
So what did you think of the Chris Rock incident? And if you were hosting, what do you think you would have done if that happened to you?
I would have knocked Will Smith out.
That's why I'm from the streets. If I saw fists, I'd have gone back. You'd have done the same, yeah?
I would have got, as soon as he fucking smacked me, I would have came across with a left and fucking knocked him out. He's a fucking bitch. Actually, Chris Rock has hearing loss since the slap. Really? So that's physical assault. I think Will Smith should have his SAG card taken away because that's a SAG production. You're a SAG actor. You're a union actor, and you assaulted another union actor. You felony assaulted another union actor. So they should strip him of his Screen Actors Guild card, and he should never be able to work again. He's mentally unstable. He had a fucking nervous breakdown. That wasn't an acceptance speech. That was a man in the middle of a nervous breakdown. Here's the thing. Like, that Jada Pinkett Smith, she's a toxic fucking twat. And this is what happens when you got the wrong person with you. This was the 4th time he was nominated. Okay. He wasn't nominated for a concussion. Remember, hashtag Oscars so white. That's what Jada Pinkett Smith did. She's and that was supposed to be his night. He's supposed to be able to get his Academy Award and have an acceptance speech that was completely different. He was going to join the ranks of Denzel Washington and Jamie Foxx. Instead, what did he do? He got kicked out of show business because he had to defend his wife with alopecia. Wear a wig, bitch. Wear a wig. Everybody wears wigs. Even the men in that industry wears wigs. I mean, it's stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid. He should be kicked out of show business.
So, he got off light, if you ask me. Yeah. So at the Comedy Store, I mean, most comics, they work as doormen to get in or something like that. I mean, is that a part of paying your dues at the Comedy Store where, it's
everybody worked as a doorman. Sam Kinison worked as a doorman.
You got to work.
You start there working as a doorman. You get to watch the best comics in the country. You get to figure out how you can do it. And then eventually you start getting spots. And then, and then you get to do the main room and you get to do the original room and you can do spots in the belly room. And of course, everybody comes up there and all the agents and managers come up there and see people. So, I mean, it's a great play. I was there for like 25 years. I loved it. It was a great place.
You actually got to stay in the house behind the Comedy Store, which was legendary for housing comics. You had roommates Andrew Dice Clay, Sam Kinison, and Mark Maron.
Me and Mark stayed there. Me and Mark stayed there. Don't believe everything you read, Dennis. All right.
Okay.
So, I mean, we stayed there at the house because we had nowhere else to go. And Mitzi would let you stay there. And so, but Kinison would come up and Dice stayed there at one point. Ollie Joe Prater, a bunch of comics when they came to LA would stay there until they got their feet underneath them. And then it was like the fraternity house at the Comedy Store.
Okay. You were actually a writer, which is another way, you write for the big time comedians. You wrote for Yakov Smirnoff, Jimmy Walker, and Louis Anderson. How did you get into? Did they just appreciate your comedy? They asked you to be a writer, or how did you get that gig?
Well, I was working a doorman, and these guys would do a joke, and I'd come up with a line, and I'd write it down, and I'd say, I don't know if you, I don't know. And so I think I gave Yakov like 3 or 4 jokes, and he goes, what do you want? I goes, try those out. And he tried them out, and he came to me. And he goes, well, go give me $50. And he gave me 150. I said, give me $50. I like you. He gave me a check for 150. He goes, I like you too. So, but Yakov was great. Louis Anderson was a great technical guy to watch him. I mean, he did the Tonight Show a lot of times. And then, Jimmy Walker had a program. I just worked with Jimmy in Vegas at the Laugh Factory. And I reminded him of that program. It was like $500 for 50 jokes. It was a lot of work. And, 500 for 50 jokes. And so, but that was, back then when you're a struggling comic, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I booked Jimmy Walker in my room out here in Mass, and everybody said he was kind of sarcastic. I'm like, well, the guy takes 1,000 pictures a day. If it's a thrill for you, but the guy's sick of taking fucking pictures, but he didn't get it. He was a
Yeah.
hot shit. I like Jimmy. All right, tell us about this one. You accepted a dare back in the day to drive a motorcycle on stage while Sam was doing his set. Tell us about the dare. How did that come about?
Again, not what fucking happened, Dennis, but you keep fucking reading this fucking shit. What happened was Sam was on stage on a Monday night. I drove my motorcycle on stage. He jumped on. We drove off. It was late. The place was getting ready to close. And yeah, it was like 2:00. And so he jumps on. We drove outside. We drove out of the building, and the whole audience, like a bunch, like 40 people, followed us. Just ran outside to see what happened. We went up the street. We turned around and came back, and the people were on the sidewalk applauding. And that was kind of like, and then I didn't see Kinnister for like 2 weeks. He was out on tour, and he came back, with, he was standing with Lorraine Newman and Randy Quaid. And he goes, Jimmy Shubert, get over here, you crazy son of a bitch. And he told the story. And then I heard him tell the story. Oh, that's pretty cool. And then he, not too long after that, we wound up going on tour together. So he wound up bringing me on the road as one of the outlaws of comedy. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty amazing.
So you make friends in the comedy.
Yeah.
Huh. All right, so you're saying you're living the dream, everything you dream of doing as a comic. I mean, you performed on Comedy Central Presents. Every comic would love to be. I mean, what was that experience like for you?
It was great. It was great. Really kind of one of those things that kind of launched me. I mean, it got me a lot of attention. It was a great special. I did the conjoinal twins on it, which is one of my world-class comedy bits. And people really responded to it. So that was great. It was a great experience. They shot it and they edited it. Thank God. This was back before, Comedy Central treated jokes like, remaining orphanage just treat children. So they edited it real well, and it came across pretty well. So I was again lucky enough to be part of something like that. I was one of the last choices they made on that taping, and lucky enough to get it done. So,
right,
knock wood.
Dave Attell is he's a comics comic. All the comedians love Dave Attell. You got to be on.
Dave Attell's one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite comedians all time ever. He's just there's nobody funnier on the planet.
And to get me on his show, Comedy Underground, what was that like for you working with one of your heroes?
Again, yeah, it was great. I mean, he's, I was just, it was great to be part of it. He called me and asked me to do it. And I said, yeah. And we had to go to New York, and I worked on my set. And again, it turned out really well. And Dave said that to me. He did the editing on all those things because he wanted to make everybody look great. And so, I love Dave Attell. I have a lot of respect for that guy. I think he's really one of the funniest guys on the planet.
So you mentioned Dave, one of the guys you respect. I mean, who are some of the guys who inspired you on to do comedy when you were young? Who were the guys you looked up to in the business?
Oh, Carl LeBeau, yeah. Mitch Walters. I mean, guys that were like my mentors, guys that were I got to watch at the Comedy Store. That were just, they were great craftsmen. They really put a lot of work into the art form. They did writing. They had performances that were like just amazing. And as you get to watch that. The great thing about the Comedy Store was like a college, and so you got to watch some of the worst guys. You could learn something from the worst guys. You could learn something from the best guys. And it was just every night you were there, you were learning constantly, watching guys go up all night long. And, and so, it was, if you're going to do comedy, it was a great experience. Not so much if you're going to be a plumber, but if you're going to be a comic, being in the Comedy Store was great.
That was the place to be. Well, you mentioned a mutual friend of ours, Carl LeBeau. I flew up to Alaska, opened for him at a place called Cooch Comedy Club up there, and I learned a lot from Carl. And I said, the comedy world lost a great comedian, but the world lost a better man. Carl was a great guy, but what are your memories of Carl? About it.
Well, yeah, that's true. He's a great comedian, but even a better guy. He was one of my best friends, and he's dearly missed. I'll tell you that. He was a real mentor. He was a guy who took me under the wing and really taught me how to do stand-up how to do stand-up at a high level. And so I'll be forever grateful for that. But
any great memory of him? You got a great memory of Carl you can share with us?
I get so many, bro. It'd be tough to narrow it down to one. But he was just one of the most physically gifted performers I think I've ever seen, and one of the kindest people that you meet. I mean, you met him. You know how he was.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah.
Now, let's see. 2013, 2015, you did 51 podcast episodes of your own show, The Jimmy Shubert Show. What that made come about, and how come you stopped?
Well, because the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. I did 51. I was just a lot of work, man. I had just come on Best Comic Standing. I was on the road for 9 months. I was flying back and forth to LA to do these podcasts, and it's just something I had to give. I was auditioning. I was doing. I mean, it was just ridiculously busy, and I didn't want to burn out, and so something had to go, and that was something that I let go. I really, and the reason I haven't picked it up is I just don't. There's enough people doing podcasts. I don't think anybody really needs to know how I feel about things. I just want to enjoy my life, man. These last 2 years, I lost a bunch of friends. I just want to enjoy my life a little bit because nobody gets out alive. I want to enjoy my life. I want to do this on my terms now, and I do gigs where I work with great people, and do adventure gigs where you go and entertain the troops. I want to play golf. I want to have a life. For the last 30 years, I've been living out of a suitcase, just, going. It's just it's fun, but I don't want to burn out.
You have felt the burn. I mean, a lot of comics say, you're out there on the road. I'm living the dream. This is what I've wanted to do. Then after a while, you stay. If I died out here, would anybody notice? I mean, did you felt that burn of the road where it gets to you after a while, constantly on the road?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's a very solitary existence, and I wouldn't say it's lonely, but it's solitary. You do everything by yourself. You eat by yourself. You travel by yourself. Unless you're bringing people with you. But it's been a so it's just. Sometimes you just need to take a breather, man, and just slow down and enjoy your life. And
family life. You miss out on family life, right?
Well, yeah, you miss out the family life. You miss all the, can't make certain parties or certain milestone events, because you're out touring and you're contractually obligated. So yeah. But anyway, man, I gotta run here because I gotta go meet our mutual friend Johnny Peasy downstairs. I'm starving. I've been up. I had to move hotels and do all kinds of stuff. But Dennis, I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you for being on. Can I get one last question, or you got to go right now?
Sure.
All right. If a young comic came up to you right now and he said, "Man, I dream about being a successful comic. You've been doing this forever. You've been successful. What advice are you giving that young comic to be a good comedian?"
Stage time. Get as much stage time as you can and write your ass off, and just focus on that. Just get the act first, and then do the social media. Work on your craft, develop your persona, find your voice, and you only can do that by just submerging yourself and performing every night, every time you get a chance, for free, for money, wherever you can do it, just do it, and then write your ass off.
Get better. All right, Jimmy, thanks for being on Final Clown Podcast. Good luck out there in Vegas.
All right, man. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for having me, Dennis. Good talking with you, buddy.
Talk soon. Bye-bye.